Metro Manila is on COVID alert level 3, but even with increasing mobility, the Okta Research Group says the COVID outlook in the country's capital looks promising. Our Carolyn Bonkin reports.
This table shows the reproduction rate of coronavirus in each Metro Manila city and municipality. Every place shows lower than 1, which means viral transmission has slowed down, with a COVID-19 patient only transmitting the virus to less than 1 person. Okta Research Group says it also means Metro Manila cases will continue to decline. Another good indicator, only 5 out of 100 people are testing positive for COVID. That's just a fifth of the positivity rate in September.
This is an ideal number dahil bumaba yung positivity rate natin all the way from 25% nung peak ng surge to 5% now. Ibig sabihin, hindi factor yung or hindi malaking factor yung yung kakulangan na sa testing.
Average daily cases are also down. For the past week, Metro Manila had an average of 810 new cases a day. Okta projects it will soon drop to pre-Delta surge level back in July.
Nasa 600 na tayo. We might see 600 by next week or by, in 1 to 2 weeks.
He adds the slight uptick in cases in 9 Metro Manila areas mentioned by the Health Department last week may just be artificial due to backlogs. MMDA Chairman Benhur Abalos is confident Metro Manila will qualify for a lower alert level in a week or 2.
Conservative lang ang DOH dito. Pero if you are going to look at the number
so they won't have to close their borders again. Carolyn Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
It's not only Puerto Galera in Mindoro that's offering free COVID-19 swab tests. Tourists traveling to other local destinations can also get free RT-PCR tests beginning today. The Tourism Promotions Board, or TPB, says qualified domestic tourists can take advantage of the offer of the Philippine Children's Medical Center in Quezon City. The Tourism Department has set a cap of 350 approved applicants every day. The free testing is only for those whose destination still requires a negative RT-PCR test result for staycation purposes. The TPB says up to 12,000 more qualified tourists could benefit from the free testing until the end of the year. The department also says this is to encourage more people to travel and to boost the recovery of the tourism industry. Thousands of COVID-19 vaccines destroyed in a fire in Pagadian City. Local officials say the fire hit one of the buildings of the Zamboanga del Sur Provincial Government Center in Barangay Dao last night. The building houses provincial health offices and the local Philippine Red Cross. No word yet on the exact number of damaged vaccines, but initial reports say these include AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, and Sinovac shots, as well as routine vaccines for hepatitis, measles, polio, and other illnesses. Officials investigating the cause of the fire and are assessing the total damage from the incident. The Philippine Red Cross now worries of possible blood supply shortage in the coming weeks, since supplies will still have to be transported to its nearest processing center in Cagayan de Oro City. Good news for worries of possible blood supply shortage in the coming weeks. Price hikes, oil firms finally announced a slight rollback for kerosene and diesel. Beginning tomorrow, Caltex, Flying V, Sea Oil, and Petron will cut kerosene prices by 30 centavos a liter, while Caltex, Clean Fuel, Flying V, Petrogas, Phoenix Petroleum, PTT Philippines, Sea Oil, Uni Oil, and Petron will slash diesel prices by 35 centavos per liter. But gasoline will still be in a price hike for the 10th straight week. Most companies have announced gasoline costs will go up by a hefty 1 peso and 55 centavos per liter. But gasoline will still be in a price hike for the 10th straight week. Most companies have announced gasoline costs will go up by a hefty 1 peso and 15 centavos per liter. Now, if we include the price adjustment set tomorrow, the estimated total net increase for gasoline beginning in January stands at over 20 pesos per liter, more than 18 pesos per liter for diesel, and about 16 pesos per liter of kerosene. Jeepney drivers may soon bid goodbye to plastic barriers, while passengers may be allowed to stand inside buses as public transport capacity increases later this week. Our Rex Remicha brings us up to speed.
The increase in public transport's passenger capacity from 50 to 70% is good news for Chris. He will soon remove some of the plastic barriers inside his unit so he can ferry more passengers.
Siyempre po, masaya kasi malaking tulong po sa kabuhayan namin na mga driver po.
Danilo is also okay with the government's new policy, although he believes it's not the best solution to their most pressing problem today.
Dapat po sana, ang magandang gawin po na, hindi na po magdadagdag ng pamasahe. Dapat po, pinakamaganda niyan, bababa na lang ng krudo para naman po madadagdagan nga po yung aming kikitain at iuwi.
Transport Group Piston is dismayed. They're appealing for 100% passenger capacity for PUVs. The group says 70% is not enough to help augment the income of drivers who are suffering from the series of oil price hikes.
Siyempre masakit po sa amin kasi hindi po yun ang inaasahan namin. Wala po sa isa yung maliit na dagdag eh. Kung tuloy-tuloy naman po yung pagtaas ng presyo ng petrolyo.
But for a commuters group, passenger capacity should stay at 50% instead, as bigger crowds could be a source of COVID-19 infections. They're suggesting that government increase the supply of PUVs by allowing jeeps and provincial buses from routes that have low passenger demand to serve major roads.
Malungkot at the same time nakatakot. Kasi nga, kumbaga sabi nga rin ng mga tao, in theory na lang kasi yung 50% capacity, no? Pag nakita mo sa dami ng haba ng pila, yung mga tao, they don't even care about the social distancing anymore.
Nakakatakot pa rin po kasi hindi pa naman tayo clear sa COVID eh. Nandun pa rin po yung risk natin.
Hindi naman siguro kasi yung mag-vaccinated na yung mga tao eh.
Okay.
Konti na lang yung hindi na vaccinated eh.
Pag may lagnat ka at may simptomas ka, huwag ka nang sumakay sa public transport. Pag sumakay ka, huwag kang masyadong magsalita, huwag kang gagamit ng cellphone. Magsuot pa rin ng face mask at face shield doon sa mga public transport.
For buses, the LTFRB will now allow standing passengers to ensure physical distancing while increasing the unit's capacity.
Para we would still able to maintain a minimum distance, but at the same time, not having to exceed the 70% capacity that was already approved.
Government will also distribute fuel subsidies soon, but transport regulators cannot tell exactly when. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Coming up on Newsnight, find out what options are available to struggling businesses to comply with the mandatory 13th month pay for workers. And it is a done deal between the COMELEC and a firm tied to Davao-based businessman Dennis Uy for the transport of election paraphernalia next year. Details when we return.
Love is all about time. Di minamadali ang pagpapasarap. Like the love in every Pure Foods ready-to-eat. Slow-cooked and ready in 8 minutes. Para may time ka sa mga mahal mo. Because love takes time.
For my babies, only vet-approved Nutri-Chunks puppies. The only one with active boost and prebiotics na Pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow strong and healthy. Happiness! Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks puppies.
Kabilang ba kayo sa mga Pilipino na nahihirapan sa mga transaksyon dahil wala o kulang ang mga valid IDs?
Huwag nang mag-alala dahil narito na po ang PhilSys, ang identification system ng bawat Pilipino.
Para sa Step 1 registration, pumunta lang sa register.philsys.gov.ph para makapag-register sa PhilSys online. Ito ang PhilSys, ID natin to.
Sang-ayon ba ang lahat na ang best tasting chicken dog ay TJ din? Walang duda na ang tender, ang juicy, best tasting chicken hotdog talaga. Chicken ang desisyon. Kids can tell, best tasting ang TJ chicken dog.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The Labor Department is standing firm on what the law requires: no deferment or exemptions on the 13th month pay for workers. Some businesses weighed down by the health crisis face challenges in carrying out the mandate. Our Tristan Nadal joins us live for the details. Tristan?
Labor Secretary Silvestre Rebello reminds employers and business owners that applications for possible deferment or delay or exemption from paying the 13th month benefit of their workers will not be considered. The Labor Department has recently issued guidelines on how the 13th month pay benefit should be implemented and reminded them that under the law, all rank and file employees should receive the yearly benefit. Under the law, the extra month's pay should not be less than 1/12 of the annual salary. Then it says employees should report to the agency if employers will refuse to comply with the requirement.
Yung 13-month pay is a statutory obligation. Walang exemption. Oo, kailangan bayaran mo yan on or before December 24. Maaring i-garnish namin yung pera nila o property nila and then sell them for us to be able to pay the 13-month pay. Pero palagay ko naman, hindi na aabot sa kanyang punto.
Meantime, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion laments that some businesses are still struggling to meet operational costs and amid strict lockdowns. He adds business owners are also getting anxious over the possibility that they will be unable to pay the benefit. Some workers are still hopeful to receive the extra pay that will help tide them over in these difficult times.
Kung walang cash flow, paano nila babayaran ng mga utang nila? During closure, walang trabaho, then they will not need to pay these employees.
Kasi parang nakasanayan na kasi natin na makakuha ng 13-month pay, di ba? So parang kulang yung mo, yung magiging Pasko mo, gano'n.
Sana po, iipunin ko po sa savings, tsaka pang konting handa din.
The Labor Department and business groups are also hoping that Metro Manila's alert level will be downgraded to 2 this November in order to help more businesses and workers. Back to you, Pia.
Well, Tristan, just as Joey Concepcion was saying, what are the options for small businesses, the MSMEs, that cannot pay the 13th month pay for their workers?
The Labor Department offers 2 options. First, employers can avail or apply for small business loans that will be rolled out by the government, and employers can also hold a dialogue with their workers wherein they can discuss or have a mutual agreement that the 13th month pay will be paid or will be given in installment basis. So these are some of the options that employers can explore. Back to you, Tia.
Tristan Odalo there reporting. It is official. Davao-based businessman Dennis Uy's F2 Logistics will be in charge of the courier needs of the Commission on Elections for May 2022. The 535 million peso contract includes transporting and storing ballots, vote counting machines, and other election paraphernalia nationwide. Critics have flagged alleged conflict of interest about the deal, given Uy's close ties with Malacanang. He's one of the biggest campaign donors of President Rodrigo Duterte in 2016. COMELEC Chairman Sharif Abbas earlier said the bidding process was above board, and Uy's links to Duterte do not disqualify him from vying for the big ticket contract. F2 won over 3 other couriers for the deal, a copy of which was published on the poll body's website over the weekend. The commission requires the logistics company to provide an online monitoring system to check where the deliveries are and if trucks are following the correct routes. COMELEC can also inspect F2's warehouses. Now, last-minute voter registration happened on Saturday as applicants waited in line to get a chance at electing their next leaders. In Caloocan, some people say they were promised priority. Instead, they say forms given to them already had thumb marks of other people. COMELEC vows to investigate the matter. Paolo Barcelon tells us more about the last-day rush in this report.
Zephaniah Protasio is a first-time voter in Antipolo City. After 2 months of waiting for her slot, she was finally able to appear in person and register on the last day.
Nag-online scheduling po ako and yung open na schedule for last day na.
Meanwhile, Nino Libosada transferred his registration from Aklan to Antipolo City. He's happy he got accommodated despite arriving past the initial cutoff.
Akala ko hindi ako makakahabol kasi busy rin sa work. Ngayon lang talaga nakakaroon ng pagkakataon.
It's this rush of last-minute registrants that officials expected to see. The satellite registration center in Antipolo processed over 1,000 registrants on its last day.
Kabataan, first time, new registrants, transferees, marami rin nagpapa-reactivate.
Talagang we anticipate na po na magdo-doubled up yung mga influx po ng mga registrants.
Over in the nation's capital, people lining up at Manila's District 6 registration office still tried to haggle for a slot.
Wala naman silang sinabi na 400, public advisory na 400 lang yung tatanggapin nila. Tapos pagdating ng mga tao, hindi nila tatanggapin. Dapat last day na hanggang sa merong tao, dapat asikasuhin nila.
The local election officer there says this would have been avoided had people registered early.
As usual po, pag last day ng registration, saka nagdadagsaan yung mga nagre-register natin. Lagi po yan, pag last day ng registration, laging maraming nagre-reklamo po.
The Commission on Elections earlier said there would no longer be an extension of voter registration. For those who lined up to register to vote though, the hope for a better government starts here.
Yung iba kasi yung presidente, yung mga pinangako nila, hindi naman natutupad.
Kung alam niya po yung mapakabuti para sa bansa natin, not more so sa image niya, but more on sa country talaga siya nakafocus.
Sana mabago naman sa ngayon. Ilan naman hinihiling ko sana, sir. Para hindi rin masayang yung boto natin.
Next po. Paolo Barcelon, CNN Philippines.
In the region's government officials commending ground troops in Mindanao following the killing of 2 key militant leaders over the weekend. The communist leader George Madlos, also known as Ka-Oris, was killed last Saturday after clashing with army units in Bukidnon. Ka-Oris was described by the armed forces as the top most wanted NPA commander in the country. He was facing multiple criminal cases with a nearly 8 million peso bounty on his head. Now, a day earlier, Salahuddin Hassan, a leader of a radical group, also killed in an encounter in Maguindanao. Security forces say they're on the lookout for possible retaliatory attacks. AFP Chief General Jose Faustino welcomes the latest security campaign of his men in Mindanao, saying the military will continue to sustain peace in the region. Now, police also bent on identifying the suspect behind the killing of community journalist Orlando Dinoy in Davao del Sur. A special investigation task force has been formed to look into the incident. Dinoy, a reporter of Newsline Philippines and a block-time anchor of Energy FM in Digos City, was shot by a still unidentified assailant last Saturday. He is the 22nd journalist killed under the Duterte administration. The National Union of Journalists, which denounced the incident, says not a single suspect has been found guilty in all 22 killings. Now, in news overseas, in Japan, authorities arrest a 24-year-old man on suspicion of attempted murder after a knife attack on a train in Tokyo that left 17 people injured. An elderly passenger is in critical condition after he was stabbed in the chest. The suspect wore a costume appearing to depict the villain Joker from the Batman franchise. He also set fire inside the train. Police say the suspect wanted to, quote, kill people and be given a death penalty. The world's 20 biggest economies have committed to help solve the global climate crisis. During the Group of 20 summit, leaders agreed to stop coal financing by year-end and aim to contain global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. However, they failed to decide on an end date to the use of coal. In a statement, the leaders also pledged to ramp up actions to achieve net zero emissions by mid-century. Net zero is the balance between the amount of greenhouse gas produced and the amount removed from the atmosphere. Advocates now look to the United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP26, happening in Glasgow in Scotland. The difficult negotiations for concrete actions will take place in that summit for the next 2 weeks. The latest UN report shows the Earth is warming faster than scientists previously thought, and the window is closing to avoid catastrophic outcomes. The British Prime Minister is expected to urge other world leaders to come up with concrete steps to address the crisis. Now, over in Australia, scenes of joy as the country reopens international borders after nearly 20 months of tough restrictions. New South Wales and Victoria, home to the largest cities of Sydney and Melbourne, relaxed measures for citizens and permanent residents, as over 80% of the adult population in both areas now fully vaccinated. More border limits will be removed once other parts of the country also meet their vaccination targets. Still ahead on Newsnight, the Oxford Dictionary takes inspiration from vaccines as it reveals its word of the year. And we show you the fun and quirky ways Filipinos marked Halloween. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines.
Amid the darkness, look on the bright side. Through the years, San Miguel Pale Pilsen has brought people from all walks of life together, helping shape local culture through music, fashion, and the arts. This holiday season, to commemorate the brand's timeless taste and signature style, this iconic Filipino beer is releasing a limited edition Iconican, featuring a collaboration between two award-winning visual artists. One highlights the work of legendary cartoonist and national artist for visual arts, Larry Alcala. Admirers of the artist should keep an eye out for Alcala's trademark self-portrait somewhere on the can. Alcala's son Lauro says this was the artwork done by his father for the San Miguel Beer Centennial celebration many years ago and has now become a collector's item. Alcala's design is paired with the work of National Book Awardee Rob Cham. Fans of his popular silent comics and illustrations can add this Iconican to their collection.
For this can, I made a pattern where it was Filipinos just sharing a beer with each other and drinking and celebrating being Pinoy.
The limited edition San Miguel Pale Pilsen Iconican is available in select supermarkets and convenience stores, as well as SMB delivers until December 2021. The perfect beer regalo for this holiday season, the Iconican showcases how San Miguel Pale Pilsen continues to connect and bring people together across time and distance. Dahil with San Miguel Pale Pilsen, kahit kailan, walang iwanan. I'm Sam Sidwani, CNN Philippines.
You're watching Newsnight. I'm Pia Ontiveros. 2021 was all about bouncing back from the year of lockdowns and getting vaccinated. With more people taking the shots, what else could there be for us to talk about the year that is about to end? Now, that's what the Oxford English Dictionary wants to remind us, naming vax as the word of the year. The term, which refers to the shot itself or inoculating someone, has seen a spike in usage this 2021. The use of vaxi or a vaccination photo, anti-vax and anti-vax vaxxers, double vaxxed and unvaxxed have also been on the rise. Oxford says vax had the most striking impact. And while it was an obvious pick, we hope people will also make the choice to get vaccinated. In 2020, lockdown was named Word of the Year. Now, a year, of course, will not be complete without Halloween, with or without a pandemic. As Chrissy Di Matulak shows us, Filipinos are making the most out of their Undas weekend while celebrating safely. Here's that report.
No virus can stop people from showing off their best costumes this Halloween. Social gatherings are still not allowed, so many took their parties online. Just like Kay Imson Pangilinan and her daughter Aliyah, who made the most out of the new normal in attending parties. According to Kay, Aliyah joined her class's online Halloween party and was supposed to dress up like a princess. But they opted for a costume that is quite popular with binge watchers today.
She was supposed to wear the Princess Jasmine costume. Pero yung tita niya kasi and yung tito niya, they bought her as a dress similar to what the doll was wearing dun sa Squid Game. Hindi na lang namin sinabi sa kanya kung ano yung suot niya kasi baka matakot.
Kay is not alone in dressing up her kid as the famous doll from the hit show Squid Game. This Halloween, people are showing off their best portrayals of not just ghosts and monsters, but TV characters as well. Meantime, in Talisay City, Cebu, bikers and joggers went up Manipis Road in different costumes. According to the event's organizer, there was no trick-or-treat involved or any kinds of interactions among the attendees. Everyone had fun while observing social distancing and only took off their masks during photo opportunities. These traffic enforcers in Kawit, Cavite also had fun in donning different costumes while flagging traffic violators. In the Philippines, Halloween is one of the most anticipated holidays, but it goes beyond a day of fun and scares. It also entails visiting the graves of loved ones during All Souls Day and commemorating holy ones during All Saints Day. Like in Dagupan City, some children chose to dress up as saints during the festivities. No matter the circumstance, leave it to Filipinos to make the best out of the occasion. According to people we spoke to, we may be celebrating more holidays apart, but we are together in spirit. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
It is 54 days before Christmas, and that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by...
So many questions.
Higit na malakas, sumasayo ang RPN Radyo Ronda. RPN DYKB Radyo Ronda Bacolod. RPN branches nationwide. Pakulot sa paglilingkod sa sambayanang Pilipino.
DYKB Bacolod, mas pinalawak, mas pinalakas, pinalakas.
DYKB Radio Ronda.
Every 3 minutes, a child is born with a cleft lip and or palate. Here in the Philippines, 1 in every 1,000 babies are born with the condition. A cleft lip and cleft palate happen when a part of the lip or the upper part of the mouth doesn't form properly during pregnancy. And as a result, the child has openings or splits in the upper lip, the roof of the mouth, or the palate, or even both. These are 2 of the more common birth defects. It's upsetting for any parent to have a baby born with a cleft, but it can be corrected. While cleft lip and cleft palates are not totally preventable, there are steps that a mother can take before and during pregnancy to lower the risk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk here on CNN Philippines. Even during pregnancy, doctors are able to diagnose if your unborn child has a cleft lip and or a cleft palate, which are also known as orofacial clefts. Joining us is Dr. Bricio Alcantara. He's a plastic, reconstructive, and aesthetic surgeon from the Mabuhay Deseret Foundation. Also with us is Ms. Veronica Yu. She's a speech-language pathologist from the Philippine Association of Speech Pathologists and Smile Train Philippines. First though, we want to talk about the difference between a cleft lip and a cleft palate. Dr. BG, let's start first with what exactly are these clefts? How are these formed?
During fetal development, which is the embryogenesis, it usually, organogenesis starts on the 4th week, okay, during the first trimester. So anything that would happen during the first trimester, whether it be secondary to your diet or any infectious or anything that would hamper the development, you can easily form any type of deformities in any organ system. The lips should form, the lip should form between the 4th to 6th weeks of pregnancy, while the palate will form on the 6th to the 8th week of pregnancy. So anything that would happen between that time, before the 4th week or within the 4th week, there might be a deformity that the upper lip might not fuse or form together to be a normal lip, or the palate may not fuse or form together to be a normal palate.
So kapag ang isang bata ay may cleft palate, there could be a connection between that of the roof of the mouth and the nose. How does this influence the speech ng isang bata?
Patients with cleft palate would usually have problems in speech. So first evident effect of cleft palate is what we call the resonance problem, which is hypernasality, wherein most of the sounds or most of the air would be coming out from the nose. Also, since there's an opening doon sa wall that divides the oral cavity, the mouth, and the nose area, so the tendency is that even if the air is supposed to come out of the mouth, it would always come out of the nose, causing distortion in speech, such as nasal air emissions.
So how does a mother go about the challenges of, let's say, feeding a baby who has a cleft lip and palate?
For the cleft lip, what is important there, the function would be your oral competence. Yung sinasabi nila na if you're gonna feed something, whether liquid or food will not roll out. Hindi lalabas ang pagkain. So you need to treat that so that the competence will be there. Now, in regards to the cleft palate, what is important there is the speech, sabi ni Ma'am Veronica. Kaya na importante. Now, in regards to feeding, they have special nipples. Kasi sometimes the baby, if the cleft lip is not severe, okay, even if he has a cleft palate, they can feed through the breast na naman eh.
Speaking and hearing problems can also be a problem. So hearing problems and chronic ear infections are common for those with cleft palates especially. Now, Ma'am Veronica, why do these happen? Bakit nagkakaroon ng ear problems din ang mga batang may cleft palate?
Anatomically, we have this tube that connects the ear and the throat area or the mouth area, and we call it the eustachian tube. So since there's a tube connecting both the structures, the ear and the oral part of the mouth, So the tendency is that if mas expose sa infection yung bata because of the opening of the mouth caused by a cleft lip or cleft palate, there's a big chance that that infection would go through the ear area, thus causing middle ear infections.
Now, children with a cleft lip or cleft palate may also have trouble speaking. Katulad ng sinasabi natin kanina, their voices can take on a very nasal type of sound. Sometimes it's hard to understand them. Ma'am Veronica, let's explain this particular situation and how does this develop? Kaagad-agad ba to? Kapag nagsasalita yung bata, mapapansin na ba ito?
One of the most evident effects of cleft, specifically cleft of the palate in children, is their problems in speech. So there's this misconception that after the structure has been repaired, automatically the speech will follow or the speech will improve or will be typical. So this is not always the case, because even when the structure has been repaired, the patient will still continue to do their wrong production of the speech sound, or what we call the compensatory errors. And a more common type of compensatory error is what we call the glottal stop, or in Filipino, ito yung impit. So the child or the patient will continuously produce the sound at the throat area instead of letting the air come out of the mouth. Another speech concern present in patients with cleft palate is the presence of nasal air emission. So like what I've mentioned earlier, because they've been used to that part at the roof of the mouth to be open. So even if naisarado na po natin, they'd still continue to do that production, and the air comes out of the nose instead of coming out of the mouth during production of oral sound.
Later in the show, we'll talk about the different types of surgery to correct this problem and how soon can a newborn undergo any procedure. More after a short break. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk, where your health always comes first. So stay with us here on CNN Philippines.
DYKB Radio Ronda.
Bantayan, sumugod Oktubre 11, tuig 2021, ang Rondahanay Saga. Las 4, tunog na 5 sa kagahon. Rondahanay Saga, upod kay Ronda Butch Gaspar Jr. diri sa RPN DYKB Radio Ronda Bacolod. Serbisyo garantisado. Kang pamati diri sa RPN DYKB ang palatuntunan Pulso sang Banwa. Pulso sang Banwa, alas 6 tugtog alas 7 ang takna sang aga, Lunes tugtog Biyernes. Upod sa inyo alagad, Larry Concepcion. Let's get ready to rumble! DYKB Radio Ronda Bacolod 1404 kHz AM sa bago nga tunog kagusog, pag sa bago nga digital transmitter sa Visayas kag Mindanao nagalanog. It's showtime! Marka RPN, serbisyo garantisado. We are not the number one, but we are the alternative.
DYKB Radio Ronda.
Welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where your health comes first. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Now, in most cases, it's really difficult to know the definitive cause of a cleft lip and or palate, but experts believe that it can be genetic or inherited. Environmental problems can also contribute to this problem as well. Here in the Philippines, 1 in 1,000 babies are born with a cleft lip or palate. For the most part, cleft lips happen unilaterally or to one side, but it can also happen to two sides of the mouth. Could you discuss this a little bit more, Dr. BG?
The incidence of the cleft lip and palate actually in a normal population is 0.4%. Even without genetic factors, even without those risk factors involved, may 0.4% pa rin na can be unexplained na sasabihin. In regards to laterality, kung anong side ang mas common, the left is more common than the right than both of them. That would be 6:3:1.
Okay.
So yun ang incidence ng sa cleft lip and palate.
Dr. BG, pag-usapan naman natin kung how soon can a child with a cleft lip undergo surgery? Because syempre, pag nakita ng parent ito, pag panganak, ang unang gusto nila mangyari is i-correct kagad. But what is the correct time? What is the proper time for this to be treated?
They will tell me if we can operate them immediately. Sabi ko, yes, we can in the newborn. As long as the pediatric intensivist, as long as the anesthesiologist will clear the patient for surgery, then pwede. And usually that would be around a week to 2 weeks for the cleft lip. So we can start early because of the new things now that we do, less ang risk less ang bleeding. Now for the cleft palate naman, for the speech, you need to address them before the speech will develop or the baby will hear. So pwede kang mag-start from 8 months to 1 year.
Ma'am Veronica, as discussed ni Dr. BG, ideally makorekt ang cleft palate para before even the child starts talking. But some of our, of course, some Filipinos have gone through several years in their life with this defect, so nakasanayan na nila ang nasal sound. Can this still be corrected later on in life kapag may edad na yung pasyente?
Actually, that's why after surgery, we recommend that the patient seeks or consults a speech-language pathologist to help them unlearn the compensatory errors or the way that they've been producing the sounds with the unrepaired structure. And aside from unlearning these old habits, we want to teach them to produce the sound accurately and correctly this time since there's no more problem in the structure.
Okay. Now, Dr. BG, pag-usapan naman natin yung actual operation. Matagal bang operation ito? How long is the recovery period?
If it's just incomplete cleft lip, the surgery can only take around 20 to 30 minutes actually. Okay. Recovery time, the baby can go home. Pag lip, we're talking of the cleft lip, the baby can go home the day after the operation. Okay. Pag bilateral, meaning you have two defect here, right and the left side, it may take you around 1 hour to do the operation. Then we usually let them stay in overnight, and if they do not have any problems, like usually nakaka-fever yan afterwards, then we let them stay for a day or two.
Some parents might think na after nyo makorek, tapos na yung mga operations nila. Is it possible to have another operation probably later on down the road?
Normally, yung sa scars that would form afterwards, we tell the parents na pwedeng ulitin yung pagagandahin mo yung scar. So that's revision surgeries. Tapos pagka medyo severe, like a complete unilateral cleft lip, may cleft nose involved yan. Makikita mo yung nose nila deformed din. Tawag namin doon cleft nose. So we tell them we will address the cleft nose when he becomes or she becomes older. So may mga sinasabi namin, it's not a single stage of operation. Pwedeng dalawa, tatlo, or apat. Depende sa makikita rin afterwards.
Now, there are a number of organizations here in our country that provide free surgeries to repair a cleft lip and or palate. And among them are the Mabuhay Deseret Foundation. This group works with the community and local Filipino doctors to facilitate life-changing surgeries, from cleft lips and palates to clubfoot to various eye surgeries as well. You may visit their website at mabuhaydeseretfoundation.org. Or you may also call them on their landline at 0912-912-1681. Mabuhay Deseret Foundation has offices in Manila, Cebu, and Davao. Another group is the Smile Train Foundation, which is the world's largest cleft charity. This group also works hand in hand with Mabuhay Deseret Foundation. Visit their website at smiletrain.ph or call them at 0917-528-7246. When we return, what can you do to help prevent cleft lip and cleft palate in your baby? You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We'll be back after a short break.
DYKB Radio Ronda.
The Republic of the Philippines is a democratic country and republican state. No law shall pass abridging the freedom of the press. Ini nga programa amo ang Pedo-File. Pedo-File, isa ka programa nga madalas ang balita, impormasyon, lokal kag subong nasyonal. Kag iban man nga mga update nga nagasablag sa imong syudad. Kay ikaw nagapati nga ang impormasyon kag balita, isa ka importante sa imong syudad nga ginagihuan. Ini nga programa amo ang Pedo-File. Upod sa inyo alagad, Romel Pido.
Public interest. Programa naging disenyo para sa pagdulong sa matuod na nagkakatabo sa palibot nga dapat interes ng publiko ang magapanguna. Public interest. May hustisya kag sabat sa mga pamangkot, may kaangtanan sa hilikoton sa aton mga opisyal sa gobyerno. Mga personalidad nga amo ang magasabat sa tao na wala sa pagdinyo. Public interest. Ang inyo alagad nga magapangapin sa interes ng publiko. Ini ang Public Interest. Donald Nojas.
Kaundan sang kamaturan. Namatian diri sa DYKB Radio Ronda 1404 kHz sa mga linswan sa inyong mga radyo. Tagsa ka Sabado, alauna tugtob alas 2 sang ugto. Upod sa inyong mga alagad, Attorney Ray Gorgonio, kag Suluman, Edgar Kadagat, kag Romel Pido. Aton gid pamatian, kaundan sang kamaturan.
Bantayan tagsa ka Domingo, las 7 tubtub las 9 saga, ang Kapihan sa Radyo Ronda. Melting pot sa mga isyo, kag melting pot sa mga balita. Kapihan sa Radyo Ronda. Upod kay Ray Carmona, kag sa mga pinili nga mga invited guests. Kapihan sa Radyo Ronda. Bantayan ang pagbalik sang Ronda Espiya. Ronda Espiya. Tagsa ka Domingo, las 8 tugtub las 9 sa gabi. Ronda Espiya. Ronda Espiya. Anchored by Ronda Butch Gaspar Jr. Ronda Espiya. Ronda Espiya. Sa mabot na Oktubre 3 na Bantayan.
sang kabuhi. Pulong sang Dios nga makahatag sang kasanag sa atong pagkabuhi espirituano. Bini sang kabuhi inyo mabatian tagsa ka Domingo alas 10 tubtob alas 10:30 sang aga. Diri lamang sa RPN DYKB 1404 sa Bacolod sa tagsa kalilisuan sa inyo mga radyo. Bini sang kabuhi ginasakdag sang Sumag Christian Reformed Church upod sang inyo alagad Pastor Mario Bilyon.
Pamati diri sa RPN DYKB ang palatuntunan Pulso sang Banwa. Pulso sang Banwa alas 6 tubtob alas 7 ang takna sang aga, Lunes tubtob Biyernes. Upod sa inyo alagad Larry Concepcion.
Tingog sang Banwa, ang Banwa amo ang makabulusga. Tingog sang Banwa, ang inyo angkurman Marlon M. Cedeno. Ku angkurman Igar Kadagat. Tingog sang Banwa. Alas 3 tubtob alas 4 sang hapon sa kada Sabado. Tingog sang Banwa. Diri lang sa DYKB RPN 1404 kHz. Tingog sang Banwa.
DYKB Radio Ronda.
It's good to have you on the program. MedTalk Health Talk is your partner in health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Now, there are steps mothers can take to help lower the risk of having a baby with a cleft lip and cleft palate. First is taking folic acid even before their pregnancy. Ma'am Veronica, bakit folic acid? How does folic acid work?
There is still a lot of inconsistent study about the effect of folic acid intake in the formation of babies during pregnancy. So I think one of the reasons why folic acid, because a lot of studies found that some parents or some mothers have limited or to no intake of folic acid during pregnancy, kaya nagkakaroon ng cleft of the lip or cleft of the palate yung babies nila.
Now, there are a number of very important do's and don'ts. Dr. BG, pag-usapan natin yung mga do's and don'ts ng mga pregnant women to minimize that risk of having their child have a cleft lip and or palate.
During the first trimester, it's always critical during the first trimester for any system that would be developing. Ang first thing is, if you have a friend, neighbor, or a relative or inside your house that has an infection, stay away from them, especially if it's a viral infection, like the ordinary colds, the flu, even the chickenpox, the varicella. They are the ones that would increase the risk. So one is infection, always in the first trimester. Next is exposure to radiation. If they work in a health facility, if they're going to need some checkups there, and they're near an X-ray machine or some machines that would have an radiation exposure there, then they have to go out again, or they have to protect them with a lead-lined apron. Okay? Drugs. Another thing is drugs. Do not take unnecessary drugs. Okay? Even tranquilizers. The tranquilizers, the steroids, okay? They're anticonvulsants. They may also increase the risk of the mother having a cleft lip palate baby.
Is it possible to still have a hardly noticeable na nagkaroon ng cleft lip or palate ang pasyente?
Kasi a younger individual, the scar formation there is very negligible. So, we tell them it's a good scar. So, hardly seen. Tapos, as you grow older, yung scars lumalaki, lumalapad minsan, or tumatambok. So nahahalata rin. If you look at the upper lip, makikita mo, there are anatomical parts that you need to realign or kailangan didikit nyo ng husto para hindi halata. Okay? Pagka like kahit hindi cleft lip, pag may nasugatan nga sa upper lip pag may hindi ka nadikit na maganda dyan na tama, makikita mo kaagad na nagkaroon siya ng sugat doon. So, kagaya you do an anatomical repair kung gusto mo talaga, it's a very pleasing scar.
Ayan, so kay Ma'am Veronica naman, I'd like to ask, so if the functional part of a cleft palate especially has been addressed, can the speech of the patient be indistinguishable from someone who has not had a cleft palate?
Actually, that's possible. Just at the start of this pandemic, Smile Train launched their telespeech services, and in a span of 2 months, we have around 2 to 3 graduates who was able to exhibit close to normal speech production after series of speech therapy sessions.
And with that, I'd like to thank our guest for today, plastic surgeon Dr. Bricio Alcantara and speech pathologist Ms. Veronica Yu. It was really good speaking to you both. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and we'll see you again next time. Stay safe, everyone.
DYKB Bacolod, mas